Listen.
Well, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg are like up-and-coming directors and actors, and I just thought, I'd love to be on that journey at the beginning of their careers. It's a legacy.
So there's a series on Apple TV Plus called Masters of the Air that comes from the people who did Band of Brothers. That's not just one of the best shows of all time. It's the thing that pioneered what a mini-series is. After that, they followed up with The Pacific, and now Masters of the Air, which I think is pretty decent. They even released a documentary to go along with the finale that showed how some of these people were still alive, past 100 years old, because they were just waiting for the show. As long as they had an Apple TV account.
Masters of the Air will be on Apple TV Plus. 26th. Nailed it. I think we should do that one again.
Why?
Again, I don't think it comes close to Band of Brothers, since a lot of the stuff that happens is off-screen or rushed over. It's not as in-depth as the other series, but it did get to the point that it did leave me wanting a miniseries for the miniseries, which I never thought I'd say. But I do still think it's a decent retelling of the American bomber groups throughout World War II, so I'd recommend it if you're curious. But before we get into big spoilers, a big thanks to this video sponsor, Conflict of Nations. It's the military-themed strategy game that takes a real-time combat system and puts you in control of existing nations, where you go face to face with others to become the king of the world. So become a master of the air, ground, and sea in order to claim your stake in this free-to-download PvP. It lets you face over 100 other players in real-time combat that can take weeks, making it even longer than some of the Wordle games you were having with your grandma. It's also a very detailed platform where the more you plan out your units, the longer you last in the game, on top of also building out tanks and jets and more subs than the Metro. One of the best parts is even forming alliances with other players, because that's where the game gets really exciting, because you never know how long those are going to last or who's going to survive to see the other end. On top of it, it is cross-platform, so you can start and continue games between your mobile devices and computers because it's all under the same account. So if you're interested, click the link down below in the description and get an exclusive gift of 13,000 gold and a month of a premium subscription for free for those who claim it in the first 30 days. So be a major like Butler and serve up a victory by clicking down below. Now, on to the show. Let me explain.
Steven Spielberg had always, after Band of Brothers, wanted to respect his father's wish, because his father said, when are you going to do the pilots? When are you going to do the Air Force? It took a while, and we did find a book that we felt that would be great for us to try to develop. And that's what we did. Really instigated mostly by Steven.
Now, the series is broken down into 9 episodes, with some major directors even doing a couple, which surprised me. They had Cary Fukunaga doing some of the early ones. Dee Reese did several. They also had Colleen Atwoods doing the costumes, so there was going to be no complaints there. But it's how they filled out the sets by hiring furloughed soldiers and pilots during COVID that weren't working that really builds the environment. Again, this squad was known as the Bloody 100th due to the amount of deaths after every mission, that it was considered a miracle for any of them to survive the skies. We follow a group of guys whose timelines overlap throughout the season, primarily these two known as Buck and Bucky, since they got more than Milwaukee.
First day of basic training, this fella walks up to me and says that I remind him of a guy back home in Wisconsin, goes by the name of Buck. Before I know it, the whole damn 8th Air Force is calling me Buck. What kind of a name is Gale anyway?
No! Now, Austin Butler obviously has the Tom Hanks connection, who's produced the series ever since Band of Brothers. But even though I like him, he's great. It's not even bad. It's just his voice is so distractingly smooth.
I'm thinking of giving it a try in here. Won't be as good as our old one, but might work good enough.
My man sounds more like a World War II radio host than a World War II soldier. Between the two, though, I think that Callum's Bucky may get a lot more to do, since they have this man in the sky and in the trenches. They give him a mustache that survived longer than rations, and even through it all, he's always drinking and singing.
I loved getting to watch you sing all day.
We're actually working on a Christmas album.
Yeah. There's our exclusive, thank you.
2026.
Is the name of the band Masters of the Air, or are you just
Called Wrong Direction.
Anthony Boyle plays one of the other leads named Crosby, who gets so sick up in the sky that he gets grounded. And I know that Callum is the one who's starred in a lot of period pieces, but just one look at this guy, he just has the face of that era. He looks like a Jersey boy.
I think for me it was that what attracted me. Like, when I read the script, I read the first couple of episodes, and everyone felt like they were in Band of Brothers, and Crosby felt like he was in an Adam Sandler B movie. Everyone was being very heroic and smoking and looking cool, and Crosby was going, oh God, I can't do this, and throwing up on people. And I thought, I want to play that guy.
And to think Apple had him playing a hero one week and then John Wilkes Booth the next. Man is of the past. Now, one of the early missions ends up getting canceled due to the clouds that kept them from seeing the targets, and then that's followed up by a couple of losses where they lose over 30 men, so it really is a rough start to the season, but that's exactly where heroes are made. See, to me, the best characters are Rosie and Barry Keoghan's Curtis, and they're not even in all the episodes.
I wasn't that bad, right?
So when Barry's Curtis dies in the third episode, it really showed the brutality of things. Almost made me want to abort the mission. Reading up on it, it's also pretty accurate to a lot of the events that happened, with some of the things being switched out here and there, but what I think really brings it together is how the cast has this authenticity, especially because of their weeks at boot camp. They were getting used to traveling as a pack, so even during the plane scenes, they're actually in sync.
We were asked to march a lot, and I remember going, why are we marching? We don't march in the show, like, this is just a waste of time or whatever. And we were marching, and for 2 days we were marching, it was so like disconjointed, it was all over the place. And then on the third day, the marching started to just be completely succinct, and we were moving as one, we were moving as like one unit, and it made me think, oh, this is how we need to be in the sky. This is how we need to be with each other in the show.
By the fourth episode, they break down how they had 35 crews at the start, and now there's only 12 left. So when they start bringing in the new recruits, they change the rules on them, upping the amount of missions they need to go on.
All these new faces. We go down, they won't remember us either. We never existed, Buck.
They also choose to show this episode's battle by staying on the command center, so you don't really know who's returning or what's happened to them, and it's an interesting perspective.
I didn't see any shoots.
Bucky then gets sent on leave to smash his worries away, but then puts his buggies away when he hears that his boy Buck is still missing and he comes back prematurely.
He was everything to you, because the Spartans believed that, really they believed that you would die for your brother if you were also lovers.
What I did find funny, though, is how Callum's the hound dog in the series. Meanwhile, Butler's faithful through War and Peace.
Let's do it up, Buck. Paint the town red.
Yeah, maybe next time. Come here, Meatball.
You get, like real women, you get Meatball the dog to slow dance with. How was that?
Well, he was a wonderful slow dancer. Heavier than you would imagine. We don't tell him that.
Yeah, don't tell him.
But he was very, very cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meatball's one of the best actors I've ever worked with. And,
He was so
committed.
authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
always.
committed. I never saw a false moment from him.
Always
Did he
sounded
do
like
boot
a
camp,
dog.
though?
He didn't have to.
He
just
was
came.
there.
He did bark camp.
On a side story, there's Quinn, a conflicted young soldier who ejects after not being able to help his crew, leaving him stuck on a farm after getting caught because he didn't know how to format the date.
Drei Gläser.
Himself away.
How do you do that?
He ordered 3 glasses. We order 3 glasses. That's the German 3.
The way they have his character escape by planes, trains, and feet does an interesting job of also being the journey of his survivor's guilt and learning that living doesn't make you a coward.
I left him there. I tried. I would have done the same thing.
By the midway, the action scenes go full throttle. The one thing I'd give the show is that each episode does raise the stakes one after another, and each one's better because you get to see the damage of the soldiers. They'll shoot the combat so that you're in their POV, and then they capture these troops parachuting in the middle of warfare with sunsets in the background, twisting both beauty and fear as the people that they've bunked with fall around them like debris.
Well, how we shot that was on a gimbal 50 feet in the air with the volume screens. And so they're high definition screens that you can see the fighter pilots flying by you, and you can see flak in the distance. And with a green screen, you'd have to be imagining all that. But with this, you're just immersed in it.
Yeah, we would joke that we got jet lag.
Meanwhile, Crosby goes to Oxford for a conference where he dukes it out with the Brits like the boys were doing earlier, but this time with words.
Sir, there are 3 problems with these bloody Americans. Excuse my language. He said they're oversexed, overpaid, and over here.
Oh, Captain Crosby. What is it the Yanks say the trouble with we Britons is? That's okay, I remember now. We are undersexed, underpaid, and under Eisenhower.
One real switch that they do with his character is that they move up the death of his buddy Bubbles from where it truly happened to a point in the story where it can emotionally affect Crosby, since it was his buddy, and he feels like he's the one who got him killed with his call. So I can see it being a little iffy to swap, a real-life death for a character moment. But that guilt gets muted once he meets Sandra Westgate.
You're...
Subaltern Westgate, your roommate. Oh dear. You expected a man, didn't you?
No, I
Well, I'm not bothered if you're not. I can see that you're married.
After having to eject during another mission, we get what I consider to be the most impactful part of Bucky's story. See, every time that they're above in the skies or taking weekend breaks in fancy schools, they don't really get to see the full fallout of war, but it's when they're trapped and on the ground that they get to see the destruction and the people who live there, those who are taken, those who are gone. So after Bucky gets captured, berated, and interrogated, he ends up getting shipped to the camp where the other 100th homies are at, including the reunion they've been stretching for episodes. Like, just the way Buck locks eyes with him, you would swear they were life partners. Man even had a whole place reserved for him on the fence and everything.
Let's leverage all those POWs.
How would they do that?
Like this.
As they catch up and try to figure out a plan for their great escape, my favorite character, Rosie, goes through hell.
Now that we're here, feels like we're actually gonna do something.
Well, you'll do something, all right.
He's been on 3 missions in his first 3 days, so now he's being sent to rehab after being one of the sole surviving planes from the last combat.
120 men dead in one afternoon. I wasn't one of them. I'm fine. It's the 3rd time you've used that word, fine.
It really is something where, like, he ends up being the rock for all these other guys, that just because he doesn't break, it doesn't mean that he's not the shoulder, the glue for everybody else.
We're about to get our balls blown off when this guy here, this crazy bastard, starts humming Artie Shaw.
It's like Gene Krupa. You don't stop Gene Krupa. Gene Krupa's got to think about more than keeping his own rhythm. He's responsible for the rhythm of his whole band, isn't he?
I gotta say, hearing his voice over the radio, that was the first time that I didn't feel scared shitless, even though he clearly lost his fucking marbles. I knew that I wasn't alone.
The 7th gets into Black Monday, which is when they lost over 150 people, and this is where they also change up the rules yet again for the new recruits, upping it from 25 to 30 missions, so now they're stuck doing more.
I mean, changing the rules on us mid-game? That's bullshit, Jack. They want us all to fucking die up there, and no one gives a shit. No one!
So even though Rosie got all of his, he unquits and adds more missions.
You don't go crying about it. You get back in the seat, and you finish the damn job.
Meanwhile, Crosby's fighting his battle in the sheets.
And I just want to know where you've been.
Do you want to know where I've been? Or do you want to know where I will be? In 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Now, it isn't until the 8th episode that the Tuskegee crew comes in, even though they've been like in every opening, to the point that honestly you can combine all those scenes and it'll probably equal more screen time. But hey, better late in 108 than ever. Their episode also did get the shortest intro with no previously on, so they get right to it.
I see a group of proud pilots who flew their first mission over Germany, who can't wait to suit up and do it again. A group of men, thousands of miles away from home, who finally feel like America.
The Tuskegee soldiers were made up of Black Americans who were never given the top-tier weapons, plans, or even the heads up for the craziest missions they were being sent on. Because at one point, they're explaining this France operation, and one of the guys just has to stand up and point out that the math ain't mathin'. And the commander still hit them with the Top Gun speech.
You're right, Lieutenant Macon. This is gonna be close, but it's not impossible.
Is he crazy?
We're gonna give you IDs, so if the Germans don't get you as soon as you land, you can be somebody else. And you might be able to blend in with the population.
Oh, he's insane. Obviously, the crew gets caught and interrogated, with one of them even getting shifted around with a broken shoulder and neck. And he gives a speech that, it is a little prop, completely, but it does go hard.
I know what my country's shortcomings are, and I know it's trying hard to become what it says it's supposed to be. And when I get back, I'm gonna help them do that a lot faster.
Again, they pretty much sent them in to get caught. That's why they end up in the same camp where they link up with the 100th to chart out the area. And it's crazy that the sets were so big that they gave the cast and crew maps so that they wouldn't get lost. And they've been there for 8 months. Meanwhile, Crosby gets put on another vacation. As D-Day approaches, everyone goes all in, with Crosby even cutting out his PTO and taking more pills than Wolf of Wall Street to stay up. But then he still hits the concrete after overworking himself.
7:30 Saturday morning, Cros. Huh? You've been out of it for 3 days.
Mann was out longer than Priscilla. Like, he slept through D-Day. In the finale, we arrive to February 1945, where Rosie's plane gets gunned down over Berlin, leaving him to get captured by the Red Army. That's when we get one of the most harrowing scenes as he walks through a German labor factory and passes through the ashes.
To live, one must make choices.
Where will he go now?
They sold them Palestina.
Sir? Rosie gets a celebration when he arrives back home, and rightfully so, because even though he's alive and celebrating that Crosby's gonna be a daddy, it's clear they're not the same boys from the pilot.
Whoever fights monsters should take care not to become a monster himself.
The Germans evacuate the POWs and have them marching through the winter nights in Germany as they head to another camp, and that's when the group makes their plan to escape. Buck and 2 others are able to book it to freedom, only to get beat by some kid soldiers.
Knows more about baseball than you do. Is that right? Who's your team? Yankees, you? Cubs. As always, next year.
Sir? Back at the camp, the POWs look up to see the Allied forces fly in to the rescue, and it turns into a game of capture the flag for the boys. They then fly over towns and finally drop something other than bombs as they supply those in need to save the day.
Dismissed.
Buck and Bucky get reunited for the 5th time in the show, and even go on an evening cruise after whispering sweet nothings over the radio.
Clear up, tower. Please repeat.
Over. You heard me the first goddamn time, Gale.
I'll be damned.
In the end, they hear the call for what would be the end of the war, but also the beginning to what would become one of the biggest genres in movies. In the credits, they recap all the real soldiers, showing you that they kept true to Bucky's mustache. It was good to see that most of the guys were able to meet the love of their lives and had families, many of them living past 80 and even 100. But it's Bucky's story of his wife's picture that adds to all those moments that Butler shot. Because even after her passing, this man kept that on his bedside till the end. So whenever Butler was staring at it, even through the war, it's with the eyes of someone who knows that they'll be looking at it as their escape for years to come.
I think it's really important that we create a kind of library where people can understand what it took to keep our country free.
Thank you all for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Again, a big thanks to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring this video, since, pretty much is the perfect strategy game to play alongside this series, since you get to battle to become the masters of the air, the waters, and everything on the ground. A reminder that for the next 30 days, you can also get an exclusive 13,000 gold and a month of premium if you click the link down below in the description. I'm curious to know what other series you're looking forward to, who the standout was for you here, your favorite episode, because again, I think that there's stuff in 5 and 7 that really escalate what the series could be, and I was hoping that, again, they would take more time with the show. It's something that I think Band of Brothers, which also had a really big cast, was able to do, but it's interesting how all those original ones were able to create stars later on. This show had stars already coming into it. Let me know anything dealing with the show or something else that you want us to cover, and until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and Bucky will come rescue you.